Hello and welcome to the Future of Responsible Business campaign. I'm Alistair Greener. As a C-level executive being bombarded with expectations and targets to improve sustainability performance have become part of the job. But the day-to-day running of a business is hard enough on its own without having to think about reinventing your organisation, operations, methods and even your supply chain. How do you plan and execute these fundamental changes without interrupting your business? And where in your organisation can you uncover the game-changing insight to turn sustainability programs into great business? Well, this is what we're going to discuss today with Amanda Smith from Cority. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
Now, sustainability certainly isn't a new topic, but it does seem like pressure is building for organisations to demonstrate and improve sustainable practices. Why is sustainability important, and why are we seeing such increased interest right now?
Organizations feel this in a few different ways. They have external pressures, so pressures from investors who are using sustainability information to value their company and determine the long-term viability. For investors, it typically means they're looking at ESG, or environmental, social, and governance aspects. And we see that the largest investment firms in the world are specifically saying that companies that are not preparing and taking action around sustainability are going to see their valuation suffer. You've got regulators and standards bodies who are requiring reports and changing what those are constantly. You also have the conscientious consumers. Consumers are taking sustainability and the sustainability of products, the footprint of those products, into consideration when they're making buying decisions. And then internally, your employees care too, and they're intrinsically motivated. They want to make sure and believe that their organization is doing something to help be more sustainable.
Now, surely most boardrooms will agree with what you're saying, and they probably understand the implications. So why are they struggling to implement the right solution?
Well, it's really hard because knowledge is missing. We need to really understand where you can have an impact, where you are having an impact, and where you can make change. In order to do that, you need to consider aspects that haven't previously been considered before.
What sort of data are we looking for, and how are we going to use it?
Sure. So data means a lot of things, but certainly we have to have information that we can trust, and it has to be at the right level of detail. So a lot of this information is external to the organization, and so it's difficult to get. So they have to look and see whether or not they even have the information around things like consumer sentiment in the supply chain. That information can be a challenge to collect, to even gather. At the operational level, organizations do have their operational data, but are they capturing it in a way that they can look at it down to that asset level, down to the process level, so that way they can actually make decisions and see where they can take action? So capturing the information at the right level, capturing it down kind of deep enough into the organization and granular enough that you can actually make decisions on it, and then you have to be able to trust it. How is it being exchanged within the organization? Is it being emailed in Excel files, or is it a centralized system that you could really audit and assure that the data is accurate? It's a huge amount of information to really be able to aggregate and pull together in order to make decisions on.
So what you're saying is that action needs insight and insight needs data. But let's be practical about this. If we want to start our transition tomorrow, what are the building blocks of the solution?
You need to be able to collect, evaluate, measure, track, forecast data, and you need to be able to communicate and engage with stakeholders.
Now, Cority has a solution.
Cority provides a digital structure for effective collaboration, data collection, and analysis. So very specifically, we can provide the standards for those companies who are just getting started. Beyond that, for organizations that already have the data, we have expertise in bringing that data together, pulling in information, no matter what the data is. Because of the flexibility of our platform, we're able to accommodate no matter what that is.
Okay, we understand what this looks like in principle, but perhaps could you give us an example?
Sure, I have a great example of a company that we've worked with that chose strategic objectives that were both aligned with their strategy and their operations around waste. And they have information across these thousands of facilities around what the waste streams were, where they were going to, how they were being managed and handled and transported. But none of that information was centralized. It was in many different systems. And so they pulled all of that data into Cority, into a centralized system. And once they did, they had information they could make decisions on now. They could compare locations. They could compare the waste to purchased materials. Being able to compare locations, they were identified. There were sites where waste was being mishandled or materials were being mishandled. And because of that, it was creating excessive waste. And so they were able to interject and engage employees at those sites, provide training to them, and significantly reduce both the materials being purchased as well as the waste being sent off site. And further looking at the data and with that employee engagement, they identified a program where they could divert used tires. So instead of sending used tires to a landfill, they use them for playground equipment. They can sell that and actually turn it into a revenue stream.
Now, Amanda, we've learned a lot about how data can empower an organisation to become sustainable. Could you summarise your message for us?
Ultimately, organizations need knowledge. They need the data and information so they can make determinations on what the next best step is, what actions they can take, so that way they can reduce their impact and improve their sustainability performance.
That was Amanda Smith from Cority.